Hey, you guys, I wanted to come on here and discuss this story about a bouncer who believed that this black woman was using a false ID to gain entry into an establishment. We really don't even have to get into the identity of the person who made the call. I'm pretty sure you guys can surmise that it was not one of us that had an overreaction and decided that calling the police was the best course of action. But it's no surprise when you think about it. Now, you guys know when someone uses a fake ID to attempt to get inside of a place where alcohol is served, they'll typically just tell the person they can't come inside. The theatrics and drama that this bouncer decided were warranted just goes to show the larger society's pathology in response to the presence of a black person, and no doubt this was definitely racially motivated. But before I give any more commentary, let me at least read this article and give you guys some insight as to what's going on. So this article is from Atlanta Black Star, my favorite news publication for black people, and I like Atlanta Black Star because if it wasn't for this news outlet, a lot of the black news that goes on in the world we wouldn't know about unless it's something of monumental proportions like the George Floyd situation. But to get started, the article starts off by saying that a Massachusetts restaurant issued a public apology after a black woman shared an experience she described as blatant racism. In a TikTok video posted on Wednesday, user at TikToks by Alexa said she and her friends had gone to the Cardboard Box, a restaurant in the town of Oak Bluffs on Martha's Vineyard, on the night of August 10th when the incident occurred. Their plans were foiled when one of the woman's friends was stopped by a security guard who thought her ID was fake. The restaurant hosts late-night events for patrons who are at least 21 years old. We were greeted by an extremely racist and rude bouncer who thought my friend's legit ID was a fake ID, the woman explained. Instead of just running the ID like a normal person, he calls the cops to run it. The woman said that once police arrived, an officer told her friend that she'd have to pay a ticket if the ID was fake. Again, this circumstance is not one that's new, just really unfortunate, but it sounds like it was just a black woman and some friends. Maybe they just wanted to go out and have a good time, and unfortunately, a man from the larger society decided that he was going to exert his patriarchal dominance over these women in an effort to make their lives miserable. And it irks my soul the way that this is a recurring pattern with the larger society. Even more interesting is that Martha's Vineyard is prominent for black culture. It has a rich history of black American success as far as the wealthy and elite class for black people. So it's kind of like the caucasity of it all for this man to feel so emboldened to act a whole fool in an area that's known for black excellence. And it's just really but not at all surprising. So if you guys have ever been to or seen Martha's Vineyard, it's an extremely beautiful area, and I encourage you guys to check that out. I think it would be a rewarding experience and a wonderful opportunity, especially if you're a black traveler. Please make that one of your places that you see in your endeavors. But refocusing back on this black woman's friend who was rudely mistreated by this caveman who took it upon himself to have a conniption that warranted law enforcement intervention. Did you guys ever notice how even in these instances, black women don't seem to get the benefit of femininity? They're not perceived by other groups of people to be soft and fragile. Instead, they're looked at with aggression and beings filled with testosterone, so much so that a man who has this role of subduing belligerent people felt the need to contact the police. So it seems in every way, shape, and form, black women are not afforded the benefit of femininity, even when they are innocent and being accused of doing something wrong by those with malicious intentions. And what's even more disturbing about the situation is that the bouncer didn't even run the card to confirm if the ID was fake. He decided that the police were needed in this situation. And my whole thing is, if you can't safely check someone's ID without becoming fearful of women, then maybe that isn't your line of work. But I'm not even going to be facetious with that last statement. It was clearly motivated by color, because I'm sure all of his other cave dweller friends come and go without issue. Like, man, I know you mad because you're in possession of defective recessive genetics, but don't take that out on black women. And then to make it worse, your melanin does nothing for you except give you high susceptibility to sunburn. How unfortunate that has to be. So maybe that was just a manifestation of his anger and realization of that. But enough of my tirades. Let me actually read a little bit more of this story to you guys. So moving on, it says, Her friend was not fazed by the officer's comments and insisted the ID was real, saying that this is my ID, run it. The woman explained that the officer ran the ID and realized that it was real. When the officer told the bouncer that the ID was real but newly issued, the bouncer continued to insist the ID was fake. The woman said, adding that the white customers in the restaurant were goading as the encounter dragged out. The video of the woman detailing the experience has been viewed more than 140,000 times. The woman said she received a personal email apology from the restaurant and passed it on to her friend, who said she just wanted to move on from the situation. The Cardboard Box later made a public apology on Instagram. Now let me just pause here for a second. So here's the thing. If this were me in this situation, I don't think I would have continued trying to gain access to their establishment after a situation like that, because it's safe to say that they employ people who discriminate based on skin color, and they can do that, but I also have the right to expose that same business. We should not patron restaurants or any industries for that matter that have some type of retribution towards us, and it's something that perplexes me why we engage in these contentious encounters with these people after they let it be known that they don't want us in their places of business. I would have used word of mouth and let the world know that this restaurant employs people that are discriminatory in nature towards Black people and gave the place a 1 out of 5 review. It wouldn't be defamatory because you firsthand experienced the occurrence. And this also reminds me of other stories where Black people, even after witnessing these situations, still try to go inside of businesses despite the animus harbored towards them at the inception of the encounter. And I don't understand the gluttony for contempt our people have when it comes to going to places where they aren't wanted. And then when the situation goes viral, the organization issues a watered-down apology claiming they're diverse and value everyone, and it's debilitating hearing that same expression every time injustice happens. This should also open up our eyes to some other hard truths that we refuse to see. Notice how other people from the larger society were just watching this entire situation unfold, not intervening, not coming to the defense of these Black women, just being spectators. These so-called alliances and allies that we want so desperately to believe are there for us don't exist. I need for us to understand this, because if the situation were in reverse, they all would have taken an active offensive role and immediately swarmed the perimeter where the encounter took place. You guys know that song by Michael Jackson, "They Don't Really Care About Us"? Yeah, that applies in every situation where we think the larger society has some form of compassion for us, when really it's the opposite. But without rambling on too long, I do want to finish reading this article because it's actually interesting what happens after this. So the article says, as many of you likely know, a TikTok video regarding a woman's experience at the Cardboard Box has gone viral. To sum the video up, a security guard at our establishment believed that a Black woman's valid ID was fake and called the police to have them check it. That woman was then treated with disrespect, though she had done absolutely nothing wrong, when our security continued to insist that the ID was fake. The apology continues. To begin, we unequivocally and without reservation apologize to the young women who were treated poorly at our establishment. A personal apology has been given, but we realize that a public apology is also called for. We also apologize for failing to be sure that all of our staff is educated about what is appropriate, especially in incidents involving Black people who are so often unjustly targeted by law enforcement and those seeking to weaponize law enforcement against marginalized people. The statement also said that the restaurant is working with the chief of security to work on implicit bias and racial sensitivity training with staff members. Michael Blake, a Black man who is the owner of Offshore Kinetics MD, the security company that provides security for the Cardboard Box, spoke to Martha Vineyard Times about the incident. The young man who scrutinized this young lady's ID, I guess, identified some anomalies, and as per our standard operating procedure, he got the assistance of Oak Bluffs Police Department, Blake said. If the young lady felt that she was being profiled, if the speech indicated something that alluded to that, we obviously apologize for that. We definitely don't want anyone to feel that way. So there you have it, a dry apology followed by a black man who is the owner of the security company giving pacification for the use of discrimination towards this black woman by a male from the larger society. Did you guys hear anywhere in the article where the security guard lost his job or faced reprimand, some type of disciplinary action? As a matter of fact, the identity or the name of the security guard was not mentioned once, and it speaks volumes about how our own people will go through such great lengths to protect the larger society from consequences. Another thing, when you begin an apology with the word if, by default, it makes everything about the apology disingenuous and invalid. Apologizing for an action means you acknowledge the wrong that was done in every capacity. I don't think people grasp the fact that an apology is insincere if the word if is used. Context means everything when it comes to this space, and if you cannot wholeheartedly express some form of contrition in your role for the circumstance, don't even extend an olive branch that will break the moment it's given. The worst part about the black man's statement is that he failed to mention the fate of the security guard. He didn't say we're going to replace him with another security guard or anything of the sort. So he pretty much got off with this bias and is free to continue antagonizing future black patrons. However, the good thing is the video went viral on TikTok, so hopefully people are aware that this incident took place at this place. But let me know your thoughts on this. Do you guys find it excruciatingly annoying that society continues to perceive black women as masculine, even in situations of innocence? And what do you think about the black man who didn't openly state if the security guard from the larger society was going to be subject to termination or discipline? Sound off in the comments section below. Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and share this video, and I'll talk to you in the next one.